Hello, this is Edith Neumeyer, and I'm going to do the third part of my video series. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but it's about the Antichrist, or who the Antichrist is, or who the Antichrist is not going, or he is not. So I did a very lengthy study. My first two videos are done. And then during my third one, I was kind of interrupted. So I'm starting all over, which is kind of okay because I guess it's okay. So anyway, so here's the third part in which I want to really talk about who this Antichrist is, or continue to talk about who this Antichrist is. In my last video, I showed clearly who this man of lawlessness is, and the one before that too. I started with Daniel, looking at various places in Daniel, Daniel 11 and Daniel 7. That was my first video, to show who this, or the definition of the man of lawlessness, and how that is not overlapping or the same as the definition of the Antichrist. Now, historically, I guess when we start with the Reformers or Martin Luther, they used that name Antichrist for the man of lawlessness, or the little horn of Daniel 7, or Babylon the Great. They all knew who Babylon the Great is. Okay? Why is it that all of a sudden the Protestants forgot who this, Antichrist, which really is not, we can't go by the definition that John used in 1st and 2nd John, because it's a different definition. But for some reason, and I think I mentioned Irenaeus, which he lived around 200 after Jesus Christ, or after Christ. And he used that word already for this man that's going to come, this ruler that's going to come. And maybe they all kind of built their false assumptions on that. Maybe Martin Luther was aware of that and built his false assumption on that, and therefore called the Pope Antichrist. Don't know. Watch my first two videos, or even the past three videos, because they all talk about the Antichrist and who really is the Antichrist. I said clearly that Babylon the Great in Revelation 17 is the Antichrist, and that the beast out of the sea is not really fully the Antichrist, only the little horn on top. So that's not the whole beast. The whole beast is more the political system, okay, which this little horn, or Babylon the Great, ruled over. Okay, I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just kind of reviewing a little bit. So I actually talked very much in my last video about Revelation 13, okay, and Revelation 17, about this Babylon the Great, who is the same as the little horn. She is sitting on top of the beast and controls the beast. Okay, so who is the beast? It's a political system. It's almost like an empire, even though it consisted of many empires, because there's 10 horns and there are 10 kingdoms, not kings like Daniel said. I think Daniel was really, or God was covering the truth, so people would not recognize it until later. So there were really kings, or kingdoms, not kings, but kingdoms. And their kingdoms as also in empires, because some of them were even empires, considered empires, like the German Empire, the Austrian Empire. They were all empires, and then their empires before, even there was Charlemagne, who had a huge empire of all of Europe almost in the beginning. So, and I think he did combine a lot of the kings in that area and he made himself one over all of them, but always under the control of papacy. And we need to understand that these historical things, or else we'll never know who the Antichrist is. See, so many people go by these false assumptions that dispensationalism brought in, that this ruler is coming at the end. And that is not so. It will come before the day of the Lord starts. Before the day of the Lord. And most people believe that the day of the Lord starts with the rapture, which Paul said clearly. The dead in Christ will rise first, and we who are still alive will be changed. That is what people consider the rapture. Okay? So I'm not going to argue over this word that supposedly is not in the Bible, which is not. Okay? But it's an event, and Paul uses the word caught up. Okay? We are being caught up. First the ones that are dead, and then we are being caught up with the ones that are resurrected. So, but this beast, going back to the beast, this beast out of the sea in Revelation 13 is the political system, which of course the man of sin rules and has control over, had control over for many, 1700 years. Okay? 1700 years. He had control and still is controlling in the shadow. Not only that, when this empire kind of got a head wound, and it did, okay, that system, that European system got a head wound during the First World War, okay? I really believe that papacy was planning that to get back on these countries or these kingdoms that rebelled against him during the Reformation or after the Reformation. So he's trying to get back at them. So he destroyed really most of them, okay? All of Europe. France was destroyed before even the First World War. Didn't have very much power. And then after Napoleon, it didn't really have that much power anymore. And then he destroyed the German emperor, the Austrian emperor. He also destroyed the Tsar. Okay, so all big kings that were really rebelling against him, he had them destroyed through the First and Second World War. And so when he destroyed, or not destroyed, I think kind of damaged them severely, let's put it that way. I think they were just really damaged. They got a head wound. Okay, really, I believe that's the head wound maybe that happened to the beast, that it was severely wounded. Now, Europe came back after the Second World War. It took a long time and came back in the European Union. But during the time, somebody else took over. Between the First and the Second World War, somebody was invited in to actually take over power of the world. And everybody knows who that was. I hope everybody knows who that was. Who did they invite during the First World War, or at the end of the First World War, to end the First World War? Now, during the First World War, or at the end, all countries, European countries, were really destroyed. There were hardly any soldiers left, okay? They were all at the bottom. Now, it looked that the Kaiser wanted peace, okay? But England did something that changed history. they invited the U.S. into their little quarrel, European quarrel. And when they did, history was shaped. The United States came into existence as a world power. Okay? And of course, that wasn't the end. Then they started the Second World War. And again, at the end, when almost everything was decided, England again brought in the United States, and that gave the United States even more power. And in order to understand who that second beast is, we have to understand this historical thing. So again, this first beast is Europe. Europe with the 10 kingdoms, or actually 7 left, the little horn, which is papacy, who ruled them all most of the time, okay, until the Reformation. But the Pope would not give up. Papacy didn't give up. He formed an underground police or underground military organization called the Jesuits, and which they were responsible for a counter-reformation. They were going to destroy the Reformation and the countries that rebelled against him. And that's what he did during the First and Second World War. And he also, at the same time, he invaded the United States, who was really the country founded on Protestantism and freedom, okay? Freedom of choice, freedom of religion. So they all went to the United States to start this country. But real early, the Pope again, or the papacy, the Jesuits infiltrated the United States. Now, you're probably thinking, where in the world do you get all this information? Well, there's historical information that I know, history, plain history. But what happened in the United States, I have a book right here. And I have mentioned that before because I have done videos about this. So if you're familiar with my videos, this is a review. It says 50 years in the Church of Rome, the conversion of a priest, Charles Chiniquy. This is the book that I would recommend, okay? He was a priest in the Roman Catholic Church around the time of Abraham Lincoln. He was attacked by the bishops actually, because he was not going along with what the church said. And he realized what was going on in the church. He wrote this book to really not just showing what's going on in the Catholic Church, but how the Catholic Church was planning to take over the United States during the time of Abraham Lincoln. He also claims that Abraham Lincoln was assassinated by the Jesuits. Not maybe directly, they chose a person that would work for them, okay? But they were planning the assassination because Abraham Lincoln would not go along with their plan, okay? There was a big plan. They started already during Abraham Lincoln's time, but the plan was going on a lot sooner. They wanted to infiltrate into education so they could shape the minds of Protestant children as well. Okay, that was their goal. So they established educational facilities, including universities like Georgetown University. Okay, they're all run by Jesuits. And they wanted to have this best educational system so people would come to them. Okay, and especially people, with money and prestige would come to them and have their kids educated there. That was their plan. They were infiltrating into the money system, okay? But always in a cover-up, never totally obvious. I also believe that the Federal Reserve was founded, even though it looks like private people, but I believe these private people were influenced by Jesuits, okay? So the money system was also in the hands of papacy. Then next, they of course infiltrated into the political system. And so by today, people, they're in our government, in our Supreme Court. I want you to look at who is nowadays president, who was the vice president under Trump. Go back. Clinton was educated, Georgetown University. Go back. They all are connected to the Catholic Church. Trump was very connected to Catholic Church through the Bishop of New York. Okay, that's why he got it. And of course, his vice president was a very strong Catholic. Okay, so they have been infiltrating Jesuits under the rule of who? Papacy infiltrated in the United States to corrupt our country. Our country that's built on freedom of religion and freedom of speech, just freedom in general. The Pope does not like that. Why? Because in my last video I said clearly that the Pope is definitely, totally under the control of Satan. Okay? He is the Pope's he is the Satan's right-hand man. And so what he pushes through, what the Jesuits push through, is coming straight from Satan. And Satan wants total control over this world. We cannot wait for somebody that maybe come at the end. It takes a long time for somebody to develop such a worldwide kingdom, okay, or empire that can dominate the world. How long did it take the U.S. to become this dominate world power? Well, at least since the First World War, if you think about it. That's when it started. And now they are the empire of the world. And of course, we don't hear that, do we? We don't hear, oh, the United States is the empire of the world. No, the United States is the empire of the world. Okay? There's no doubt. We don't need to question who is the empire of the world. It's not the Chinese. The Chinese do not own everything or don't have military all over the world. It's the United States. Even Russia doesn't have military all over the world. The United States does. Okay? So therefore, the United States is the military of the world. And because the United States was invited into by Europe, okay, well, they took over. NATO took over. So now when we look, at the second part of Revelation 13, the beast out of the earth, hopefully we can understand who this beast out of the earth is. Again, it has to be an empire. It's an end times empire. Now, Daniel didn't see that empire. Why? Because it's so intertwined with this beast out of the sea. Okay? We see that very much. Because it also bows down to the beast out of the sea. And it bows also down to eventually, to the one who sits on the beast, the Babylon the Great, or papacy. So let's read it. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. So it was like a lamb, peaceful, okay? Peaceful, democratic. We are the peace bringers in the earth. But it spoke like a dragon. So it was fierce. Okay? That's how the United States is. It's fierce. It really does not bring peace to the world. It brings war to the world. No matter where they go, they sow war, okay, all over the world. Why? Because they want to take over. It's a machine. It's just like the Roman Empire. It has iron teeth and wants to devour everything in the world. I know you may say, oh no, that's not the truth. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. No matter where the U.S. goes, they destroy everything. They destroy the culture. Just look at Iraq, look at Syria, look at Libya, look at Venezuela, look at anywhere in the world. Okay, they now want to destroy Iran. Okay? Sorry. Okay, what did they do in Europe? They destroyed the culture there. They bombed things to smithereens. Okay? They bombed things to smithereens. You don't understand that if you don't understand history. I went to Croatia and I'm thinking, why in the world is this bombed? Okay? This, I don't remember what town we were in. I don't remember what it's called. It was in Croatia. I went on vacation there a couple of years ago. In this whole old, ancient town, Greek ancient town, had a lot of classical buildings, were bombed to smithereens. And I'm thinking, what did the Americans do here? Why did they bomb that country? Well, I think they were in cahoots with Hitler, I guess. And they came in and just bombed that little town, little city to smithereens. The whole culture, went down the drain. But there's so many things if you understand history, what went on, okay? And this is why, because this is what the United States, it exercises all the authority of the first beast on its behalf, okay? All the authority of the first beast, which is Europe, and think about the European military power, the European, not the today, but before, okay, the kings that had military power and used it for the Pope. Now, because Europe was destroyed during the First and Second World War, somebody had to take over. And who took over? It's the United States in connection with England, who invited them into the conflict. Okay? England invited them into conflict. So they're still buddy-buddy. Okay? So that's why it exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf. Okay? So they stood in for Europe that was kind of wounded. Oh, here it is, even says, and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the great signs, even called, no, wait a minute, that's not it. Inhabitants to worship the first beast whose fatal wound had been healed. Do you see that? Whose fatal wound was healed? It was Europe. Okay? During the First and Second World War, was healed through the European Union. So now it exercises all the authority of the first beast on its behalf and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast. Beast is a political system whose fatal wound had been healed. Okay? Now we are that far right now. Europe has been healed. And now they want this beast, they want us to worship this beast. Now we have to understand what this political system is and how we can worship a political system. Well, all we have to do is agree with this political system and bow down to their rules, like financial. Okay? That is part of the political system, is their financial system. Do we bow down to the same kind of system that Europe has? Financial system. Yes, they're all now interconnected. And we're bow down to the system, okay, that was established or that used to exist. Okay? United States is modeled after Europe, okay, when it comes to the system. And it performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in full view of the people. Okay? Some people say, oh no, that didn't happen yet. It says, and it performed great signs. Think about John's time. Okay? Put yourself into John's shoes. What would have been great signs to him if he would be looking at our time? Okay? What would be great signs? He says one of them, even causing fire to come down from heaven. What would be a good sign that they could create that John would say, wow? Okay? That would be just totally normal to us. Like, how did the fire come down from heaven, people? How did that happen? Okay? How could we make fire come down from heaven? Just like that? No, nobody goes just snap and fire comes down to heaven. How does fire come down from heaven? If you still don't know it, you should be reading about the Second World War. And how, I know it because I'm from Germany, how Germany specifically, and England, of course, by the Germans, but how they were bombed to smithereens. Bombed. Fire coming down from heaven. Okay? No doubt whatsoever. Okay? What are signs? Are cars signs? Okay? Great signs? Is it a sign when I'm using my cell phone and I speak in it? If I see a TV or a computer and I can see the other person and talk with that person, are those the signs that John was talking about? Is weather modification a sign? Are all the technologies we have great signs? Would immunization be a great sign? All the things we have in medicine, would that be a great sign for John? These great signs are already happening. Okay? And the United States was involved in most of them. After the Second World War, they became the leading people, for all these technologies and all these wonders and signs. Okay? Especially fire coming down from heaven. Of course, others do it too. Russia does it, China does it. But again, it's still the sign of this beast out of the earth. Okay? Which is the empire right now. Which is the empire. Okay? It deceived the inhabitants of the earth. Okay? Given power to perform on behalf of the first beast. Okay? Still what? Receiving power from that first beast and deceiving the inhabitants of the earth. People, we have been deceived. The technology that's been used, great signs, has been deceiving people. If I'm looking at right now what's happening, not only today, but let's say the Twin Towers, how were we deceived to believe it was terrorists, Arab terrorists, when it really wasn't? Okay? How we are deceived today to believe this pandemic stuff. Okay? Oh, we are greatly deceived. And the more we accept these lies, the more we are deceived. And the more the system, this beast knows they can deceive us. Okay? It deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast. It set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. Which is what? I believe is by the sword. Okay, what does that mean by the sword? It means what? War. Okay? By the sword, when you fall by the sword, that is through war. That's a saying. You fall by the sword, it means you fall by war. And this beast was wounded. The first beast was wounded because of war. Through the First and Second World War, that beast was wounded. Okay? Had a deadly wound and came back to life. It's not dead completely right now. Okay? And it makes, in honor of that beast, it makes an image. Of course, we think about an image like a picture, okay, or a statue. That's what we consider image. But maybe we need to think about outside the box, what that could be. I don't know. I could speculate. Okay? We don't know for sure. But something we need to think about. Okay? What image? Okay? Is it an image for the system? I don't know. It's kind of hard to understand. Sometimes we don't understand everything, but we still have to think about, okay, what can we understand? But then it says, the second piece was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. Okay? So think about that. Eventually, this image will cause everybody to bow down to it or to worship it. I don't even think it says bow down. Okay, image, first beast, and my image could speak and cause all who refuse to worship the image to be killed. Not to bow down, but to worship it. Again, think about what it means to worship. Okay, is it I'm bowing down and whatever kiss the person's hand? What does that mean? Am I just bowing down to something when I'm accepting it? No question asked. Is that what we're doing today when we're just accepting things like when we know for sure this mask doesn't do anything, but we're still wearing it because we're bowing down to the system because we're so afraid? Is that bowing down to the system, worshiping the system? If we're getting the vaccine because the government is telling us, remember, beast is government. Okay? Beast is government. So are we bowing down to the government? Are we worshiping the government? Are we saying the government is going to solve our problems and we're going to bow down to our government? Okay? Think about that. You have to think outside the box when it comes to this stuff. It says, speak because all refuse to worship the image to be killed. So eventually we will be killed if we are not bowing down to this system, this political system. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. The name of the beast. Now, which beast are they talking about? The beast out of the earth or the beast out of the sea? I just believe that they're really so closely related that it doesn't matter. Okay? It's really the same beast. They are related. Okay? They support each other. They give each other power. They uphold each other. Okay? Right now, the United States is the empire that also includes Europe. Okay? They're part now of Europe, and they're holding Europe alive in a sense. Okay? It's just a huge, bigger now. The empire, the beast kind of grew. Okay? This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. It's the number of a man. Doesn't mean it's a man. Okay? Understand that one. That number is 666. It's the number of a man, but it's not a man. It's a beast. It's the political system. It's not even a ruler. It's the political system. A beast is always a political system, and therefore it has many rulers. Okay, one ruler after another. United States is the beast, but we have many presidents. So the president today still is part of the beast. He is now the head of the beast in a sense, leading the beast. Well, our president right now doesn't lead anybody. It's the people that are behind it. Who rules the beast? Who rules the first beast out of the earth? I mean, the sea. It's papacy. Okay? It's Babylon who sits on it. That's what's ruling the whole thing. Or the little horn, if you read Daniel, if you go back to Daniel. Okay? That's who is ruling or controlling the beast. Same thing with the United States. You know, we are still thinking we're a free country. We're not a free country anymore. That has gone for a long time. There's another book that I really want to recommend. Because remember I said the Jesuits were infiltrating into the United States to take over it. But they didn't do it obviously. They always work in the shadow. Okay? So they used another group of front men that were ushering into this takeover. And if you want to find out about this group of people that were instrumental in taking over the United States and taking away or damaging this country that was built on freedom, it's this book right here. Okay? Now, I don't know if you see it. It's called by Joseph Plummer, Tragedy and Hope 101. There is a book, an original book, which is pretty thick, called Tragedy and Hope, not by Joseph Plummer, but Joseph Plummer kind of summarized that huge book called Tragedy and Hope, and made this little book and helped us understand what group of people was taking over the United States since the time of Woodrow Wilson. We already know that since the time of Abraham Lincoln, that the Catholic Church or the Jesuits wanted to take over, and worked very hard. And of course, then during Woodrow Wilson, it became even more clear that this small group of people were really shaping the presidents and the presidency, that they were really manipulating every election so they would get the president they wanted, and that would do their bidding. Okay? Read that book. It's extremely interesting. I do a lot of this research, and then I'm trying to relate it to end times prophecy, because we need to do that. There's so much history that we need to learn in order to understand what the Bible says. We cannot just, willy-nilly, what people did, they just interpret. No, we can't interpret. We need to understand what's going on. And if we understand history, then we can relate every one of these things to what's going on. If we know today who today's empire is, instead of being closed-minded and thinking, the United States is that perfect. No, the United States is the empire. There's a guy, a historian called Daniele Ganza from Switzerland, that writes that in his books clearly. Okay, he has done the research, and he tells you clearly that the United States is an empire, and nobody wants to talk about it. Okay, and they are the empire of today, so they are the beast out of the earth. Nobody else can be the beast. Nobody else. Okay, it's not China, it's not Japan. I mean, it's not Russia. It's the United States. Okay, so this beast out of the earth is the United States, who also controls Europe. Okay, also controls Europe through the NATO. Okay, and who also bows down at this point clearly to the Pope or papacy. Clearly. Okay? Also the Pope is controlling now this beast out of the earth. No doubt. So now, at the end, I want to talk just a little bit about this mark, because that's important to people. It's very important, because we are very close to this mark. Are we bowing down to this beast? Okay, what's the beast? I don't think we need to figure out the number or anything like that. Irenaeus in 200 said, you know, that number can apply to many names. Okay, and it's not a man. It's a political system. We might as well just forget about this number. We can see today, people, we can see what is going on. Jesus is returning soon. It's almost over. The wrath of God is here very soon. If you don't want to believe that, then continue to just sleep. But we are very close, and therefore, this beast out of the earth is here right now, which is the United States, no doubt. The first beast out of the sea is Europe. Okay, and that beast is still around until the wrath of God, and it will be destroyed by God during the wrath of God. And so is the second beast out of the earth. People, there's many people that say, well, pray for the United States. No, you can't pray for the beast. Of course you can pray for the people that still people are coming to the Lord. But I'll tell you right now, I want Jesus to return. This system is very, very bad. And if Jesus is not returning, there's nothing changing. This system is going to get worse and worse. We just cannot bow down to this system because it's a terrible system. Okay? It's not our freedom-loving country anymore. It's now full-fledged under the control of the beast, or under the control of papacy, or under the control of the dragon. And eventually, it's going to force us to take a mark, so we are going to be totally in control. Now, what is this? I really believe it is in connection to this whole propaganda about, okay, I'm not sure if I should say what's going on today, because if I say the word, will they again ban my video? I don't know. You cannot even say the word. That word that starts with a, you know, some people go this. Do you see what that thing is? It starts like that. Okay. And the next letter is this. Some people do that. Okay. Is that what it is? What's going on today? Does it end up with that? If they continue to develop that technology that they're practicing on today, will that end up with the mark of the beast? And how will they then show that everybody has this thing, and what do they do to prove that they have this thing in their body? Okay? Could it be, some people think it's a chip, but I don't think it's a chip. If it's a chip, it's nanotechnology, which is teeny technology. Okay? And we can talk about that today too. There's lots of technology today that they can use. Okay? It's not like this little chip anymore. It's this teeny chip. And if you have been part of my Facebook group, you see what kind of technology is coming out. Teeny little technology. Okay? Teeny little technology. Okay, that they can show, they can put on your skin and say, It even lights up, and it tells people, that person is that right there. Okay? But that person also is altered. Their DNA was altered. Okay, but by whatever they put in your body. Okay, I believe very strongly. Now, this is my belief. This is my assumption. It's not. I cannot show that. But we are so close to the end, people, that they're working on the technology right now that will end up with the mark of the beast. Okay? They're already working on that technology. And I will warn you to bow down to this system, to this beast system. It's not one man ruler. Don't wait for this one man ruler at the end. No, it's already here. The system is already here. The beast system is already here. The political system is already here, right? The man of sin is already here. It's been here for a long time. They're just continuing to control more and more of the world, which we're in the middle of it. Are they talking about a vaccine passport? Are they talking about a vaccine passport? Yes, they do. Okay? And it's not going to be very long until they say, oh, the passport is not going to work unless it's somewhere in your skin. Okay? Very obvious. Very obvious. Okay? So read these things again. Okay? But we need to understand who this beast system is and who is causing this mark. It's our political system today. And you look, this whole political system is a world system. It's the new world order. Okay? It's one world system. And I shouldn't even say new world order because they go freaking out too when they hear that word. Okay? They will freak out. And they'll ban my video because I'm just using that word. But that's the way it is. And you need to wake up because maybe pretty soon we cannot even say it anymore. Remember, I'm on BitChute. So if you can't find me on YouTube anymore, I'm on BitChute. And all my videos are now being uploaded to BitChute, so we can't lose them. Okay, so when they close my channel, that's where you can find me. Anyways, I'm coming to an end. Read these things again. So you are not going to be deceived, okay, by this political system, by this empire, today's empire. You're not being deceived. If you are from another country, remember that we are all belonging to the NATO, or at least most of us, okay? Most of the world today belongs to the NATO. And they're all the same system. Anyways, let the Holy Spirit guide you. And I think this is going to be the end of my series on this Antichrist. Again, maybe buy these books called Tragedy and Hope 101 and 50 Years in the Church of Rome, and I'll put them, I put the link on the bottom. Anyways, always let the Holy Spirit guide you.